All my work is really centred on the landscape. You know, I'm really, really influenced by the place where I live and the sense of home. And I'm very lucky to live on the edge of Somerset, Devon and Dorset, and to be surrounded by lots of open space and nature, which is what I really, really love. So I suppose I use the land as a backdrop for my work. It's the ground for my work, if you like, and then I'll look at things passing through it, like humans or birds, to try and, do you hear that creak? That's my very old Bernina. So the birds and the humans passing through the land for me are like a symbol of transience, really. I've always been fascinated by the fact that we can't hold on to the land, we can't hold on to our lives or to time. So there's a little bit of time really running through all the landscape work that I do. And the major textiles influence for me was definitely my mum. She's always used stitch in her work. She's a soft furnishing upholsterer, seamstress, tailoring. She worked with the wardrobe department at Windsor Theatre. So I've watched her stitching all my life, and I think she inspired me really. I do a lot of work with birds in it, and in particular I have a fascination for corvids, crows and jackdaws and the like, because they, I don't know, they have a little bit of mystery, and yet they're such a strong symbol, really strong symbol, often associated with darkness and death. And in fact, they are supposed to be the messengers from the spirit world. So I quite often use them in my landscape. Sometimes it's about evoking that sense of spirit, sense of freedom. Techniques are very important to me. They kind of, whenever I use an embroidery hoop, it makes me think of my grandmother, and she was, like me, a great collector of things. She had a whole suitcase of wrapping paper under her bed, old second-hand wrapping paper, which would come out every birthday and Christmas, and she never threw anything away. You know, wartime wife and all that. I love that. I love that aspect of collecting and keeping things and making use of them. So I use found materials and rubbish to build up lots of layers to develop a landscape. Often it's a real landscape, but sometimes it's from a memory or a dream, and I like to mix them all up. It's a very sensual process for me, making, in that I love the smell of it. I love the smell of the steam iron, and especially when it glides over oil pastels and is probably highly poisonous. But for me, the way that I work in layers and the way that I interpret the land are probably very similar. One of the things I love about landscape is that you can see the traces of what's left behind. So I like tracks and paths, evidence of where people have walked, evidence of passing through. And the landscape for me is very personal, but I think that when you work inspired by the land, you pass on something that's universal, really. Landscape, like music, has a universal language, really, that all humans can relate to, even if they interpret it slightly differently.